Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. I have a subscribe button in the lower right corner of my screen. Thanks for like, subscribe, and share, and for hitting the like button, which helps my channel to grow. Some of my sources today are God in the Bible Patriot subscriber, Joshua Phillip with CROSSROADS, WERX, New York Prepper, Hal Turner, plus. Some of the things we'll cover: plane brought down by a Black Hawk, and drones, and President Trump's spooky message. And the U.S. enemy, we can more clearly see, is the CCP. Possibly the CCP was involved in the bringing down of a U.S. plane last night in Washington, D.C. 64 souls on board. It's believed, sadly, there are no survivors. And we have this: I believe President Trump is the right leader at the right time in American history to put America back on the right road. So let's get started. I'll begin with covering the very tragic plane crash that occurred last night about 9 p.m. Texas time. There was an American Airlines plane that took off from Kansas, coming into Ronald Reagan Airport in Washington, D.C. It was approximately 1/2 mile out, aiming for runway 33, 200 to 300 feet above the ground, when it appears that a U.S. military Black Hawk helicopter, it's speculated now, either was remotely controlled or the crew on board were MK Ultra. And it appears from flight tracker that the U.S. military Black Hawk helicopter made a turn and directly hit the American Airlines plane. So the plane was coming in, it was 200 to 300 feet above the ground, aiming for runway 33. The Black Hawk would have been in a restricted air zone reserved for planes coming in for landing. And as I said, on flight tracker, it appears that the U.S. military Black Hawk made a turn toward the plane. Now, it's possible the pilot on the American Airlines plane did not see the helicopter. The pilot would have been intent on lining up with the runway, bringing in the plane. And the Black Hawk appears to have been in a restricted air zone and to have purposely made a turn, and the Black Hawk, with its full view, would have seen the plane. And now evidence is coming out that on both the plane and on the helicopter, the collision device was active, saying to the pilot on the plane and the pilot on the chopper, there was another object imminent, take action, pull up, move, do something. But the Black Hawk then hit the American Airlines plane. It went into the Potomac River with a temperature of about 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Life expectancy in the water, 20 minutes to 1 hour. There was an immediate response by the emergency teams in the area. Almost immediately, we had 100 ambulances on site. We had 300 responders that were within a few minutes unified under one command. And we had a rescue boats in the water within a matter of minutes after the crash occurred. It appears that the plane came in, landed in about 7 feet of water, and split apart. It's being reported that many of the bodies being recovered were still strapped in their seats. Out of 64 souls on board of the plane, which was 4 crew and 60 passengers, today 18 bodies have been recovered. Last night, the responders requested civilian boats come out to help after the responders had been on site for about 1 hour. So recovery continues today. Now, last night, the report was that there were 3 people believed to be on the Black Hawk helicopter and that the responders could not get into the Black Hawk. Possibly there's some kind of safety devices on the military chopper. We know that just yesterday, Pete Hegseth has been confirmed as the Secretary of Defense, and no doubt was immediately taking charge of what had happened. Now, within about 5 to 10 minutes, President Trump came out and made a statement about the plane, that he was aware of the crash and condolences to the families. And then about 30 minutes later, President Trump came out and made a second statement, including the word intentional. Now, last night, almost immediately after this crash, on the tarmac at Andrews Air Force Base near Washington, D.C., the U.S. military had a doomsday plane warming up. A doomsday plane would have taken President Trump into the air in the event that America was under attack. At about the same time, out of Las Vegas, we had in the air a B-52 bomber and several rivet joint reconnaissance planes along with other U.S. military resources. I know, though, I was listening to New York Prepper last night, and we could hear on the U.S. military channel, we had encrypted messages flowing for several hours. So that's going on. Now, we have this morning from Joshua PHILLIP, CROSSROADS, that a plan by the CCP out of China was to take America to 4 war fronts. And it appears that the CCP was involved with Hamas in the attack on Israel to get something juiced up in the Middle East to involve the U.S. And that the CCP is working with Ukraine undercover, and that the CCP, we know, is actively working with the drug cartels. We know that the CCP military is in control of the Panama Canal. We know that the CCP is embedded in Venezuela, Brazil, Cuba, and in the U.S. It's speculated during the JB Dem political party attempt to take down America since 2021 have let inside the U.S. CCP military approximately 1.2 million. So that's going on. And now we have this. Yeah, so on board the American Airlines plane that was brought down by a U.S. military Black Hawk helicopter last night were 2 bronze medal ice skating champions. It was a couple, and they were on board along with about 15 international ice skating coaches and other people, along with the 2 Russian ice skating champions. Now, this couple, the ice skaters from Russia, had been in Kansas to see their son, who's about 21, compete in an ice skating competition. The son was not on board the plane. So that's going on. And within minutes after the crash, on Russian TV, Russian media was advising the Russian people that their beloved ice skating champions from 1994 had been killed on an American plane. And we have this. The Black Hawk helicopter, we understand, was out of Davidson Army Field. It was a UH-60 Bravo Company 12th Aviation Battalion out of Fort Belvoir. So that's going on. And we have this. Larry Ragland did a good job last night of bringing out initial information, as did New York Prepper. I'll try to link that for you. About the American Airlines crash, the plane went into the Potomac River. It's believed now that all 64 souls passed away on the crash, and that the 3 individuals on the Black Hawk have also passed away. Yesterday, I believe, is when President Trump, Secretary of Transportation, was confirmed, Sean Duffy. So that's going on. Now, last night, it was reported initially that the Black Hawk helicopter was flying dark without lights and transponder. However, later it came out that the Black Hawk could plainly be seen on flight tracker, and it clearly showed the helicopter making a turn and directly hitting the plane. And now we have this. Yeah, President Trump. Another confirmation for President Trump is RFK Bobby Kennedy Jr. as Secretary of Health and Human Resources. Tulsi Gabbard, head of Intel. And Pam Bondi, President Trump's Attorney General. To go is a confirmation for Kash Patel to head up the FBI. Now, Colonel Douglas McGregor, in a recent interview, said President Trump needs to name an ambassador to the Panama Canal. Currently, we do not have anyone associated with the U.S. government who is interacting directly at the Panama Canal. And we have this. Alexander MERCOURIS, a European journalist, yesterday brought out information that Tucker Carlson had put out that at the end of December 2024, the JB, the Dem political party, who many Americans believe is trying to destroy America, that JB and associates were entertaining a plan to assassinate President Putin. Now, we know that internationally, leaders of nations don't assassinate leaders of other nations, particularly when you are involved in a military situation, because who is it you're going to negotiate with? And this also, Sal M. did a good job on explaining what's going on at the Panama Canal. I'll try to link that for you. I believe we're going to see the U.S. military actively engaged at the U.S. border and possibly Panama soon. And we have this from TechTick. We've had 2 U.S. astronauts, Suni Moore and Butch Will Moore, who have been stranded at the International Space Station since June of 2024. President Trump asked Elon Musk with SpaceX to rescue the 2 astronauts, and we believe this is in the process, and a statement is coming out that SpaceX will bring back the astronauts by March. President Trump likes to get things done. And we have this from Western Journal. President Trump, in a Wednesday executive order affecting education and the United States of America, is putting forth that money will be available to parents to choose their school they want their student to go to. U.S. federal money would be available for parents to send their children to a private school, a faith-based school, a charter school. Money will also continue to go to U.S. public schools. But way to go, President Trump. Excuse me, let the American people choose the school they want to send their children to and make American U.S. dollars available to all parents. And we have this from DAHBOO. Yes, regarding the Texas border, in my last video, I reported on a shootout that was in Fronton, Texas, between the cartel and the Border Patrol. And now inside Mexico, all the way from the Texas to California, U.S.-Mexico border, the U.S. State Department is putting out a level 4 warning. Do not travel. And I had reported that the cartel was putting IEDs, small bombs, along the roads that was in Tamaulipas, Mexico. Now one has exploded and hit a vehicle. We don't have more details. But this has prompted a level 4 warning from the U.S. State Department. Do not travel to Mexico. So that's going on. And now we have this. President Trump is putting a halt to foreign aid groups, and we know, and it's believed, that the dim politicians, and possibly as many as 50% of the Republicans, we could describe as rhinos, also traitors to America, are in favor of trillions of dollars flowing to foreign aid groups, NGOs, because the politicians get a kickback. So that's going on. So President Trump is putting a stop to foreign aid for 90 days. And he's also had to firmly put down what appears to be insurrection in the federal government by federal government employees against the President of the United States. So he is placing on leave 56 people. I believe this group is associated with U.S. aid for resisting President Trump's orders. And the acting director under President Trump of U.S. aid, Jason Gray, has put this in place. Laid off 56 people with U.S. aid for resisting President Trump's orders. And now we have this from Hal Turner. We're talking about under JB, the U.S. was capturing 2,000 people per day coming across our border. That number now under President Trump is down to 500 and less. So that's going on. And now we have this from Hal Turner. Intel about the cartels from top law enforcement. They have verified, so U.S. Intel has verified, the cartels have been given the green light since January 21. That would have been one day after President Trump was inaugurated, to open fire on U.S. federal law enforcement individuals and other Americans defending the border. And this is in retaliation by the cartels, who we know are also backed by CCP. This is in retaliation for the crackdown on the border by President Trump. So we have this. So immediately, about January 21, President Trump ordered the U.S. military to the border. This included combat troops from the 10th Brigade Combat Team, the 82nd Airborne Division, and the 10th Mountain Division. And now we have this going on. Oh, yeah. And in my last video, I put out that Kristi Noem, formerly the governor of South Dakota, now President Trump's head of Homeland Security, was boots on the ground in New York City for a roundup of illegals dressed in her bulletproof tactical gear. Now it's coming out. Massing at Camp Pendleton in California. We have hundreds to thousands of Homeland Security, Secret Service, U.S. Marshals, plus Border Patrol. So we have hundreds to thousands of law enforcement now grouping at Camp Pendleton in California to begin a massive roundup next week in California. And when they get through with the West Coast, they're moving to the East Coast. The objective by this unified group working with the U.S. military is to round up 100,000 illegals. Currently, President Trump has given quotas to various Border Patrol and other law enforcement groups involved in rounding up the illegals of approximately 2,000 per day. We understand already the number of illegals that have been rounded up is approximately 5,000. So that's going on. Now, President Trump has also made an offer to 2 million U.S. federal government employees, and most of these are people who have not been working in the office since before 2020. So they stay at home, collect a full paycheck. Investigations will be made into whether they had a second job or not. President Trump made an offer to 2 million U.S. employees that they could take deferred resignations, and this begins January 31 through February 6, I believe, for them to decide, yes, I want to take deferred resignation, which means they will receive a severance package and receive full pay and benefits through September. And it's estimated that a 5 to 10% of the U.S. government workforce will take the offer. President Trump says this will save the U.S. government billions of dollars. And we have this from JWTV. On January 28, in Washington, D.C., there was an evacuation of the Department of Justice early in the afternoon. And it's unknown what it was the reason for this. And we had verification on the ground from Leo Hoffman. I've seen his post before. He was working in the building. And the fire alarm went off. And so the people were evacuating. And on the ground, we had H-60 U.S. military helicopters, National Guard, possibly some FBI. We do not know the reason for this evacuation of the Department of Justice early afternoon, January 28. And we do have this. Kara. Yeah, we did have recently a massive training exercise in Washington, D.C. involving CARA, C-A-R-A, which is U.S. military, U.S. government bioweapon training. So, yeah, that's going on. And from New York Prepper, in response to that shooting near Fronton, Texas in the last few days, Texas sent an additional 400 National Guard to the border. We know that President Trump has designated the cartels as terrorists, and he's also designated the Houthis in Yemen as terrorists. So that's going on. President Trump has also put forth a new military objective to build over the U.S. Something like the Iron Dome to protect the U.S. from an air defense stance. And this is coming out. So President Trump is bringing in some aspects we heard from President Ronald Reagan's Star Wars defense system. And the new U.S. Iron Dome will be space-based and include tracking and interceptors that can intercept ballistic hypersonic plus missiles from other nations. And we have this from WERX. Okay, so we're seeing many refuelers over the U.S. KC-135s, and we've sent to Europe and the Middle East in the past week or so up to 45 refuelers. So that's going on. And we have Black Hawk helicopters are assisting in the tracking down and securing of illegals. And currently at Gitmo, that prison in Cuba, it's very quiet. So we have that going on. The U.S. also has U.S. military intel assets up. This happened yesterday. Yesterday, Tuesday, when WERX was reporting this, and they were over the UK, Finland, Italy, Israel, Syria, Iraq. So we have a lot going on with our U.S. military. And we have this. Additional troops are being moved to the Texas border. And the U.S. military is now being used to track down and secure illegals. And we are reminded recently, in the past few months, in the latter part of 2024, we had FBI plus or federal organizations doing radiation training at Texas hospitals. So, yeah. And we currently have in New York City a massive U.S. federal, state, and local government and U.S. military joint exercise going on how to address a nuclear event in New York City. And now we have this from our new Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth. Stop all new Army contracts and pause for 10 days up to several months. And part of the reason is to review DEI being embedded in both the U.S. military and U.S. military contractors. President Trump has set a line in the sand, setting priorities and also control of money for the U.S. military. So Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is in step with President Trump. And we have this. Okay, so we saw President Trump make a statement via his press secretary, Caroline Leavitt. And I got to tell you, and other Americans who are thinking individuals, are also not buying what President Trump put out about the drones over New Jersey. He said they were authorized by the FAA, and that's the Federal Aviation Group. Now, this doesn't make sense because in 2024, and this would have been the last few months of 2024, when American citizens began to see many drones, not only over New Jersey, but other parts of the U.S., and especially over sensitive U.S. military sites. And we saw Wright-Patterson Air Force Base doubling their security and putting up scrambling planes in the air regarding the drones, as did other U.S. military bases. So I submit, if the FAA had been in control of those drones, don't you think the FAA would have told the U.S. military? And I'll be frank, since President Trump has made this statement, and his statement was the drones over New Jersey were being controlled by the FAA, I gotta tell you, now I am spooked, because it doesn't make sense, and frankly, it's not believable. So that's going on. Maybe President Trump, now I believe something really serious is going on. Possibly the American airspace is being threatened by outside forces. We don't know. But saying that the FAA was in control, that's not believable. Okay, we have this. from BPEARTHWATCH. Yeah, talking about the shootout at Fronton, Texas. President Trump is on the verge of a deck of war against the illegals, and that would have to involve also the CCP. And President Trump is freezing money from many standpoints, and it's believed this is impacting the pockets of U.S. politicians. So that's going on. And also, President Trump is stopping grants and loans associated with DEI. So that's going on. And also international NGOs that had been at the trough of American money. We have this. President Trump, it's believed, will reassign many internal revenue individuals and put them to work in his new External Revenue Service. President Trump's plan is to cut down on the amount of IRS payments from American citizens and begin to collect external revenue from tariffs. So that's going on. President Trump is putting in a new agency to collect duties and tariffs. So the American people welcome that. And now we have this. Yeah, from Fox News. That President Trump has declared a state of emergency at our southern border. That loosens up a lot of resources when a national state of emergency is put forth. Now, we had a Russian icebreaker up in the Arctic. The name of the ship is 50 Years of Victory, and it collided in the Arctic with a cargo ship and was damaged. And this happened in the Kara Sea, left a large hole in the hull of the Russian icebreaker. So it's been moved to Murmansk, Russian Arctic base, for repairs. And we have this from Hal Turner. So in the Red Sea, near Israel, we had a ship explode. The crew was in the sea, adrift, and the ship was on fire. This is about 3 or 4 days ago. Now, this is a Hong Kong cargo ship named ASL Bavania. And the Houthis have recently halted their attacks in the Red Sea since President Trump was successful in a ceasefire in Gaza. So this explosion on the Hong Kong CCP ship is of unknown origin. And this is going on. And now we have this from Hal Turner. The head of Ukraine's intel group, Budanov, has said Ukraine will cease to exist soon, and we know President Trump has cut off weapons and money to Ukraine. So that's going on. So now the Ukraine government is beginning to make these statements publicly to prepare the Ukraine public for defeat. And now we have this. President Trump has also loosened censorship on public media platforms, and he has also loosened the individual press groups or individuals who can attend White House pressers. And this includes Welcome Back, Breitbart, and Axios. And I heard New York prepper say, he lives in Pennsylvania, but he said he had applied to be able to attend the White House pressers. And we have this from Hyperspeed. The U.S. tests a new anti-grav aircraft. Now, we've been hearing about anti-grav. That's called new technology, anti-grav. In other words, the plane does not have a traditional combustion engine or nuke-powered. Instead, it has devices that push back against the gravity of the Earth and push the plane up. Anti-grav, new technology. And it's being tested in Antelope Valley, California, put out by Skunk WERX. Now, I will say regarding Skunk WERX, this is something I received from the Lord recently. Keep your eye on Skunk WERX. So, and in Antelope Valley, we have Skunk WERX, Northrop Grumman, and other U.S. militaries. Now, we have a plane. These are triangle planes, and many American citizens have seen these. For some reason, the U.S. press tried to deny, oh, you're not seeing a triangle plane in the air. TR-3A, Black Manta. And now we have a new plane, TR-3B. This is the anti-grav plane. So we see it is hypersonic, stealth, it absorbs radar, and so on. So we see the U.S. and the world moving into a new frontier with Star Wars type technology. And now a short prayer. Strike the deceivers. We ask God the Father for your angels of AI technology to strike the deceivers of many colors embedded in servers upon earth. Let your words, O Lord, in the name of Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, come to pass and bring down the nest in the stars of the deep state, and Leviathan in the deep oceans, and Behemoth in all sandy deserts. And we thank you, God the Father, God the Son, Jesus, whom many call Yeshua, and God the Holy Spirit. I say to my family and friends, remain steady out there, continue to pray. God is in charge, and He is on the move. I love you, and I'll see you soon.